Everyone, I'm Robin Zimmerman along with Janet Porter. Welcome to this special event by Women's Association of Hilton Head Island. It's so good to see you, Janet. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. I'm ready. I'm getting ready for it to be warmer though. Aren't you getting ready for it to be a little
Yes.
warmer?
It's just been so cold. And this weekend is supposed to be really,
I
really
know.
cold. I mean, I think the high on Saturday is like 42 or something like that.
I don't know. Most people may have socks, but I got a pair of socks for Christmas that say "I love books" on them. They're really actually pretty socks. I have been living in them, and I usually just have shoes on when I walk around the house, but
Right.
I stole my friends from Minnesota sent them to me, so they're hardy socks, and I wrote
Yes.
to them and I said, who would have think a pair of socks would have been my favorite Christmas present? I mean, go
Well,
figure.
I don't know when it was, probably, I don't know, several years ago. I got a pair of Uggs, the short Uggs. They're so warm and fuzzy. And I use those to take the dog out. And my husband, I think I told you, has vertigo. And so so he's kind of a little bit, dizzy and so forth. So I've been taking the dog out a lot. So I just keep those Uggs on, take the dog out. I've got my coat at my kitchen table, put my hat on, and I'm outside.
I live in my Uggs. I live in my Uggs. In fact, Uggs are kind of indestructible, and you can have them for 10 years. And I actually threw out my first pair of Uggs finally because they had holes in the toe and stuff. And Jim said, "Oh, you're gone from your beige ones to your black ones." And I said, "Well, these might live till as long as might be my last pair of Uggs because they're so durable."
Oh gosh, yes. The nice thing is we're not getting, I think Columbia is going to get some snow this weekend. We're not going to get anything nasty. We might
Yeah,
have a
yeah.
little rain maybe tomorrow, but all in all, I mean, what a beautiful, we live in paradise. I
We
mean,
do, we do. I have friends though who are coming Sunday to stay with us for a couple of days, and they lived in Boston, and they came from Boston about 4 or 5 years ago in the middle of January. We had a real cold spell. So what are they doing? They're coming again on Sunday. So they're not gonna think we live in paradise as much as I think. But I want to talk about something I'm really excited about that I
yeah,
really want to commend to people, Robin.
yes,
The Carolina Arts Center is putting on a play called The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime.
yes.
And
Mhm.
I actually saw that play in a very unusual format. I saw it in Salt Lake City at a regular movie theater, and it was
Right,
broadcast live from London because that was where it was a very popular book, and it's very
right.
popular on Amazon. But this is the first time it had been turned into a play, and I have to tell you, it is just compelling. It
Is
is
it?
so compelling that they had an intermission, and at the intermission they turned the lights in this big theater. Every seat was full, and no one moved, and you could have heard a pin drop. I
Oh,
mean, it was
wow.
just like so compelling that you kind of went, oh.
Right.
So I'm so excited. I bought tickets today because I said to friends, you just have to see this, because I haven't seen it live. I saw it on a screen, live projected, which is an unusual format.
Well, I've heard so much, I love Broadway and I love theater, and I've heard so much about the play. And I'm going, I think, the 19th of February with a couple of friends. So I really don't know a whole lot about it, but I've heard that it is very powerful, very powerful. And
Yes.
the team the cast has been put together here. The ensemble is supposedly superb. I have a friend that actually works in development with the Performing Arts Center. So yes, I'm very excited to see it as well. Is it sad? Is it a sad story, or is it just
No, no, but it's about an autistic boy, and I
right?
don't know how they will stage it at the Carolina Arts Center. The only way I can describe it is the stage was a big part of the whole production, and I can't figure out how they're going to do that
Okay,
part
right,
in live here. But
right.
they want to give you the sense of what it's like to be autistic and the
Oh,
way
wow.
it's performed. And I
Right.
happened, when I was in Salt Lake City, to be sitting next to a mother and a son. And at the end of this play, they were both crying.
Oh, no.
And I turned to them and I said, "Are you okay?" And the mother said, "He has an autistic brother at home."
Oh,
And
wow.
he just said, now I know what it's like to be Robbie.
Wow. Wow.
And
Fantastic.
so it
Yeah.
really, it's kind of an immersive experience is the way I
Yes.
would describe it.
Well, and, you know, there's nothing like live theater. I mean, I love film and I love Netflix and television. I love all of that, but I just love, you know, with theater, the audience participates. The audience, the audience makes live theater because, you know, they're laughing, they're crying, you on stage can feel them. You can set, you know that they're there. They complete the circle of live theater. And we are so blessed in this community to have the Performing Arts Center, to have Lean Ensemble, to have our high schools have phenomenal theater programs, and Bluffton has a theater. I mean, so we're very blessed.
Well, the other thing that people who are watching and listening is that, you know, you have to show proof of vaccination. You
Yes.
have to wear a mask during the whole procedure. I went to see Elf and felt completely safe.
Right.
I was in the back row, but you know, at that theater, every seat's a good seat.
Right.
So, you know, I think some people have trepidation about going out to the theater, and it's the couple friends that I'm going with were, you know, hadn't been. And I said, you know, I think this is a safe environment, and I'll get you an N95 mask if you'll feel better about that. So, you know, I think they've really, unbeknownst to me, I did a behind the scenes tour a couple months ago, and our local theater actually was the first local theater in the United States to open up again. They got permission from the Broadway series or something, and their protocols were so strict that the director said, or the staff there, the leadership there said they were the first theater to open up because they had their protocols approved as being really strict and safe. So we are very lucky to have that theater here.
Yes, we're very lucky. And, you know, ladies, you're signing on. Janet and I are just having a chit chat before we will officially start our webinar at 5 o'clock with Joy Baldridge, and you are in for a treat. Janet will actually be doing the interviewing of her, and she'll give us all kinds of tips and tools to survive life and to survive the stress that we're under during COVID. We had a little rehearsal yesterday with Joy, and she is a joy. I'm so excited for you all to meet her. So Janet and I think we have like 5 minutes or so before we officially.
Yes, and I want to do a shout out to the Port Royal fan club of Joy's. I mean, the woman has moved here. The woman moved here in November and has a fan club already. So we want to hear from those of you. I can see the chat, and for those of you who are in group meetings or at the Port Royal fan club, would you let us know how many are with you? Because we have had today, Robin, record in registration. We've had 118 people register, but we were saying earlier that we don't really know if people are in groups and watching, and just one person registered, how many we'll have today. But we think that this will be our most well-attended event this year, other than the lunches.
Yes, I know, that is very exciting. Of course, Janet and I have been doing the author series for almost 2 years now, and our numbers have been fluctuating depending really on the author, time of the year, whatever. And we've had some great numbers, but today Joy is obviously a big hit with our WAHHI ladies.
She is. And I want to do a little shout out to those for two things, for those who are listening. One is that we have Kelly Mustaine on 2 weeks from now. We always do our sessions at 5 o'clock on Thursdays, as probably everybody knows, second Thursday of the month. And we have Kelly Mustaine, who's written a book called The Girls in the Stilt House. And she's a first-time author. So we probably don't have a lot of, fans out there, but I read the book and I highly recommend it. Bobby Helbig, I want to do a shout out to Bobby if she's listening today. Bobby Helbig arranges a lot of our schedules, a lot of our authors, and she really wanted to have Kelly Mustaine be an author, and I'm really looking forward to it. It's kind of a multi-layered, multi-dimensional book. Yay, Bobby. Bobby says, yes, yep, I'm good. She's a doll. Book is great. Yay, Bobby, says Nancy Fish. So,
for you to endorse a book that way is huge. For you to say that it was absolutely amazing is huge, because you read like 2 or 3 books a week, right?
Yes, I do. and I've liked, Robin, I've been really frank with you. I've liked some of the books better than others.
I
Some of the
know.
ones are my absolute favorites, that we've read. But this one's a really good book. I highly recommend it. And what everybody needs to know, Robin, and I know you're going to mention this again, is all of our author series videotapes are available on the WAHHI website, and Joy's tape today will be available on the WAHHI website.
Right. That's wonderful. It's a way, if you can't actually watch us live, you could go back and look at any of the authors that we've had for the last couple of years. And so, yeah, it's a wonderful, wonderful idea that we had to go ahead and videotape. I don't know if we videotaped the earlier ones, but certainly in the last year, we've been videotaping for sure.
Yes, I think maybe we just missed the first couple.
Yeah,
and I think we're on something like our 22nd one or something. I mean, who knew when a year and a half ago, when we started this because of COVID, that we would still be doing this every month. But I think the truth of the matter is, I don't think the audience appreciates how much, Robin, you and I love doing this too.
Well, we've gotten to be friends, and I've gotten to know you. You've gotten to know me. You live in Wilmar Harbor. I live in Indigo Run. We've had lunch together. I mean, that's what I love about WAHHI. I get to meet really amazing women like you, Janet.
Well, we've had a great team, and Betty Hamilton has been on every one as our president. Lord knows she's as busy as a beaver, and Bobby Helbig is our vice chair. But the person who makes it all happen behind the scenes that doesn't get enough credit is Nancy Fish, who does all of our IT work and answers the chat. And so, you and I are on camera, so people recognize us. I have to tell you, I met somebody recently who said to me, "You look familiar to me." And I said, "I don't think we've met." And she said, "No, you look familiar to me." And she said, "Oh, you're the one that does that author series, and you have the painting in the background."
Right.
So my painting is famous. My Georgia O'Keeffe-like painting is famous.
Janet, you even match your painting today. You've got the red going on. I love it.
I know. So, so I do want to do one shout out. Marcy says that there are 11 loud ladies at the Port Royal fan club. So, they're encouraged to chat in and ask questions of Joy too.
And I'm sure that they're having a beverage of their choice and will enjoy our session today.
Well, I didn't say that, but I thought it. Yeah.
I have water for right now.
Oh, you do? Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Well, I'll see you in a few minutes.
Okay. All right. It is 5 o'clock. It is the magic hour. I'm Robin Zimmerman. I am your moderator, host of this special event brought to you by the Women's Association of Hilton Head Island. These special, we think all of our events are special, but this tonight is, I think, going to be so exciting. I think you're going to enjoy it very, very much. Actually, the special event idea or special event series came about from our past president, Tamara Averett. She wanted to have a series on the environment. And so in the spring of 2021, we had speakers on the dolphins and the turtles and birds. And then when Betty Hamilton became our president this year, 2021, 2022, she wanted to continue this special event series. And so Janet Porter was put in charge of that. We've been working together in the author series. And our first special event was in October of the fall of 2021. And some of you might have participated in that. We interviewed Ramey Little. She wrote the book, Driving Miss Norma, which is a true story about an older woman in her 90s, early 90s, who has cancer. It's actually her mother-in-law. And she decided she didn't want the chemo. She didn't want to go through all her treatment. She wanted to see the United States. So Ramey and her husband, Tim, drove her off for a year all around and saw all the sights and monuments and parks and even came to Hilton Head. Anyway, that was our special event in October. Tonight, you are in for a treat. We have Joy Baldridge. Now, she is a motivational speaker. You'll get the formal introduction in just a moment with Janet. But her topic is resilience. Of course, that's been our theme. It is strengthening our resilience and actually how to handle anything that life throws you. So she has tips and tools and golden nuggets. And we did a little rehearsal yesterday with her. And she will give you phrases and numbers and things that you can remember that will help you get through some of those tougher times. So with that, I'm going to bring in Janet Porter, who is my co-host. Janet will actually be interviewing and walking us through this webinar. And as you know, a webinar means you can see us, but we cannot see you. But you do have, hi, Janet.
Hi, Robin.
How are you? Welcome. So you have that ability to chat, to be involved. That's what we love about our webinars. So it's not a meeting, it's a webinar. So that chat button, you can ask questions, you can make comments. As we said earlier, Nancy Fish is our IT guru. She's the executive director of the Sandbox, if you didn't know. And she will be able to kind of forward those questions on to Janet as well. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Janet, and she will introduce Joy Baldridge to all of you.
Thank you, Robin. So I just have to tell you, Joy moved to Hilton Head just a couple months ago, and she immediately reached out, joined WAHHI. She's a WAHHI member, and reached out, and we had lunch. And the minute I met her, I thought she would be a terrific speaker for you to hear from today. She is, it's amazing that she's moved here because she's an internationally known motivational speaker. She's done TED Talks, and she's been a speaker everywhere from Boston to Bangkok, from Denver to Dubai, and from Seattle to Singapore. She's the author of 3 different books and does virtual and live keynote presentations on positive change, team engagement, communication, sales, and leadership. In 2019, she made the 41 top motivational speakers list. And she's spoken at over 30 universities, including Yale, Tulane, and Colgate, and over 200 companies such as Google, IBM, NBC, Rolling Stone, Architectural Digest, and my favorite, Oprah Magazine. Yale University recently chose her new book, The Joy in Business: Innovative Ideas to Find Positivity and Profit in Your Work Life, for their book club read for this year. And as I said, she's one of our WAHHI members. So Joy, I'd love you to join me now.
Okay, I'm joining. Hi.
Hi, Joy. So I always like when we do this to ask, because we have speakers from all over, where you are right now. So where are you right now?
Right now, I am happily in Port Royal on Hilton Head Island, and I just took a 12-foot box truck down here with the rest of my stuff from storage. So I couldn't be happier to be here right now.
So do you have another house somewhere else, or are you here full time now?
I got a house in Connecticut. We sold it in November, and I've been getting everything down here since, my husband and I and the dog, Winter. You'll probably see us on the beach walking.
Yeah, and lots of, I walked on the beach all the time when I first came here. I don't do it as much now based on where I live, because I live in Windmill Harbor. But so Joy, let's start with the fact that I don't want to feel like you peaked at the age of 19, but you had an amazing experience at the age of 19 involving the White House and a sales call you made. So let's start with that story, and we'll get some idea what a dynamo you were at the age of 19.
Well, thank you. When I was 19, my mother said that I had to learn how to sell and network. And I said, why? I'm a psychology major. And she said, because without sales and without networking, you really don't have much in your future. It will drive your success. So she had me come home from spring break. I was at University of Miami, freshman year. And she said, we're going to make some phone calls and outreach. I said, great. Who do you want me to call? She said, the president. I said, the president of what? She said, our country. I thought she had lost her mind. I said, what do you mean? She said, I want you to call the president. And I asked why. And he said, because he needs us. I said, how do you know? And we had this small speed reading company in Greenwich, Connecticut that we offered throughout the US. And she said, look. And she opened the New York Times. She pointed to a direct quote. The president said, I wish I could read faster. My mother thinks this is an omen and says, call him. So I said, do you have his number? And she said, yes, it's public, it's government. Of course, anybody can call the White House. And I said, okay. So I called. Well, he wasn't available, but somebody
He wasn't
answered.
waiting for your call,
He
huh?
wasn't waiting. But someone answered and said, send information. So I said, okay. And I did. And I went back to college. Well, 6 months later, we get a call at the Baldridge Learning Institute. And it was the White House, but my mother's assistant was a little hard of hearing. And she said, Lila, on line 2, you have a call. I'm sorry to interrupt. And she's like, well, who is it? I'm in a meeting. And she said, I think it's the Lighthouse for the Blind. Don't we support them? And she said, yes. She said, I was just at their gala and tell them I support them and I bought the light bulbs at the fundraiser. So when our time to shine came and the White House called, we thought it was the Lighthouse and we told them we bought their light bulbs. But the good news is that we figured it out. The Baldridges went to Washington, and our assignment we were tasked to do was not to teach the president how to read faster. We did find out later, though, that Evelyn Wood speed reading dynamics, taught the president's family, but we were teaching the president's staff. And they had 40,000 letters they received every week. And we had to get a goal of at least as many letters answered with a staff of 9 people. And it was quite daunting, but we reached the goal because that's what we did. We taught speed reading, scanning, and surveying. So that was my White House experience. But what it taught me was that who knew the White House wanted to need us? We were just a small business, but we saw an opportunity and we took a chance and we seized it, as crazy as it seemed. And so it reminds me of the quote from Louise Hay that someone somewhere is looking for exactly what you have to offer. And it reminds me of joining WAHHI because everywhere I go within Hilton Head, are you a member of WAHHI? You should join this interest group. Oh, we difference makers, meditation, cooking. And it's just fascinating that if you just make the connection and realize that these interest groups are the heart and soul of the community here. So reach out, make connections, and you will just be astonished at all the good that will come from that because someone somewhere is looking for exactly what you have to offer.
Well, Joy, following up on that, the number one characteristic, it's not eating right, it's not dieting, it's not exercising. The number one individual characteristic that will extend your life is social connectivity, because we know that what kills you is loneliness and isolation. Yeah. And that is one of the things that WAHHI offers. They offer not just social connectivity, but they extend your life. You will live longer.
Yay! In this beautiful island.
And if you're also playing pickleball and getting exercise, that increases your life a little bit too, which I know you do. Oh, so yes. Joy, we happen to have, I want to brag a little bit about you. We happen to have the highest registration for any event we have had this year in WAHHI, except for our quarterly lunches. Wow. And so we're thrilled that so many people are interested in this topic. And I think people were really intrigued by your title. Yes. So how do you handle anything that life throws at you?
Well, it really comes in 2 parts. The first part is the foundation, and then the second part is the 3 secrets, or the 3 magical secrets to handling anything that life throws at you. So the foundation is really about something that we're very used to, and actually we use it all the time, which is breathing. But what a lot of us don't do is use it as a tool, as a deep breathing tool to help us to regroup, to clear our minds, to handle anything, to keep our wits about us. And when I was writing my first book, I had 9 chapters and I wanted 10. So I thought, what can I do the 10th chapter on? I thought I'll do it on stress reduction. And I interviewed Nina Mirror, who's a stress expert. And I said, what do you want me to add in this book to help people be successful? And she said, breathing. And I said, well, they know that. What else? And she said, no, breathing is it. You have to talk about it. And I said, well, how and why? And she said, the reason why, and she said these 6 words that made me put it in the book. The 6 words, she said, where breathing is your most easily accessible, yet underutilized stress reducer. Easily accessible, underutilized stress reducer. It's right here. We can use it anytime, but we don't unless we're exasperated. And then we make this big sigh and gasp. but for the most part, we don't. So I created a concept called the 4-4-6. And it's very similar to a lot of breathing exercises, I'm sure, if you do yoga or Lamaze or anything else. But the 4-4-6 is where you inhale for 4 seconds, hold it for 4 seconds, and exhale to 6. And what this does, this deep breathing, is it puts you in the present tense so you can handle things better. And I love this quote from a man named Stuart Schwartz, who is, he's a spiritual guru out of Sedona, Arizona, that I studied under. And his expression is, now is perfect. Now is perfect. Test it anytime. But we're never in the now because we're racing ahead or thinking behind, racing ahead and thinking behind. So the 4-4-6 actually puts you in the present tense where you can enjoy the now and the perfect. And you really need to do it like a ninja. Don't just do it here in this webinar, but do it all the time. Wherever you're going, whatever you're doing, you can do it driving or walking or running or playing pickleball. Inhale, hold it, exhale. So I thought we could do a 4-4-6 real quick right now. What do you think?
I think that's a good idea.
Okay, so everybody, all at once, I'll count, you breathe. Here we go. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And repeat. Inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then to add to it, it's a trilogy. You want to take a breath and do the 4-4-6, then take a moment to clear your mind and stay present. And then ask yourself a question. The question could be as simple as, how am I feeling right now? Or what's the priority? Or how am I going to handle that situation with my brother-in-law? Or whatever the question is. Take a breath, 4-4-6, take a moment and ask yourself a question. And to make sure you're doing it right, because some people aren't sure, you can put your hand on your diaphragm to make sure that the breathing is happening properly. Or you can take a bubble bottle. Maybe you went to a wedding and you got one of these little bubble bottles. Well, to make it a little more fun, if you inhale for 4 seconds, hold it for 4, and exhale to 6 through the bubble wand, that means that you're really deep breathing. So let's try it. Inhale, 3, hold it, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's a 6-second exhale. And so if you can get these at, Party City or from a wedding you were at, but it's instrumental. First of all, it's fun to blow bubbles, but there's a reason behind these golden nuggets. So maybe this foundational golden nugget to really be able to handle anything is to remember to deep breathe, but also use the formula of the 4-4-6. And because we are such a tight-knit community at WAHHI, maybe we can even tell each other, hey, you know what? I think we need a 4-4-6. And then at the beginning of a meeting, perhaps, or maybe beginning of a webinar or even a virtual meeting, we could say, you know what, let's start with a 4-4-6. Who's in? Everybody likes to do it. So we can remind each other and use these golden nuggets, because this is the first of many in this hour, to use it as code to create a culture to be less stressed and to have resilience, to live with ease.
We're going to get to a lot of those tips. This makes me want to go buy bubbles, by the way. But I think Joy, we talked about the fact that we wanted you to speak because Betty Hamilton, as the president, picked her theme this year to be about resilience. And, I'm curious, I would love it if you would define resilience, and also what's the difference between resilience and impactful resilience, which we talk about in your book.
Yes, well, resilience is to bounce back. Resilience is to be strong and persevere. And I thought that was the end of it until I was speaking to a client at a law firm, and we were about to do a meeting for 250 HR professionals. He was the chief HR officer. And he said, I'd like you to talk about the difference between resilience and impactful resilience. And I said, what's impactful resilience? I'd never heard of it. He said, well, resilience is bouncing back and continuing to persevere, but impactful resilience is when you actually step away, where you take a break and take a moment, because then you come back even stronger and sharper. Think about it. If you've ever been maybe composing an email and then you stepped away to take a phone call or to get something, and maybe you came back in 20 minutes and you look at it again and you see it with new eyes. And so impactful resilience is not just pushing, 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 going, going, going and staying strong. It's getting even stronger by stepping away, taking a pause and regrouping.
Wow, thank you. And I think, Betty picked that topic because COVID's been such a challenge to us. And I loved your book and I recommend it. In fact, I think you have a copy there, Joy. Yes, Joy in Business. I read it on my Kindle. So I bought it regardless.
Thank you.
And I told you when we talked the other day that I loved your chapter on the 3 secrets to a successful life. Would you talk about that for a minute or two?
I would love to. And also I wanted to mention that because my publisher is John Wiley and Sons, and they were a business publisher, they added the word business to the title, but it really is a book about the joy of living. And so I wanted to make that distinction in case people are not in business. It's a beautiful book for anybody to live a happier life. And so the 3 real magical secrets to living that happy, resilient life starts with managing expectations. That's number 1. Number 2 is self-acceptance. And number 3 is to be flexible and adaptable. So I thought I would give you a few golden nuggets within each of these steps, if that works for you. So,
perfect.
Let's do that. So when it comes to expectation management, I was raised by a family of very optimistic people, and we had some mottos in our family. My father would say, it's really important to manage your expectations. And also the way to do that is to expect the outrageously unexpected. Like whenever we were planning for something, we would always think, what is the craziest thing that could happen? The most outlandish, the one we wouldn't expect, because then that would brace us for anything that could possibly happen or go wrong. So if you expect the outrageously unexpected, then you can follow the family motto, which I think is worth writing down. But our family motto was, in life, we had to function in disaster and finish in style. So function in disaster, keep your wits about you, and finish in style. And you do that by expecting the outrageously unexpected. And what some people don't realize is that it's hard to do that because you can get blindsided by so many things that can change the plan and expectations that you have about family members or friends or things that you're about to do, or even just driving and someone cuts you off, expecting to have just a nice little drive. And so there's a concept you're probably familiar with, controlling the controllables. But what a lot of people don't know is what's 100% controllable. And there are actually 2 things that are 100% controllable, according to Jim Abbott. Jim Abbott was a baseball player who threw a no-hitter game, which only 300 players have thrown no-hitter baseball games. But what made him unique is he was born with one hand. So if you think about someone who made it to the major leagues in baseball with one hand and was able to pitch and catch and play and do such incredible things. So when he was interviewed, he said, his mentor said that you do have very little control over things in life. So it's very hard to manage those expectations unless you focus on controlling the controllables. And he said, the 2 things that you can control, according to his mentor, where you can control your effort and you can control your attitude. And so constantly be thinking about, when you're managing expectations, think about the effort involved in really controlling your feelings, your emotions when the game changes, and your attitude. And the attitude comes with a word. We know expectations are going awry when we hear ourselves say the word should, like they should know better. We said 3 nights and they're staying 4. I can't take it. Get a lot of visitors here in Hilton Head, I'm learning.
We do. You'll get used to it. I have company arriving Sunday.
Oh, you do? Are they saying 3 or 4 nights?
Yeah.
3 is my goal.
Yeah.
But, and they shouldn't do that. They shouldn't, make us clean their room. I mean, my gosh, or whatever it is, we start to get this phrase in this word should, and then you know that your expectation management is going awry, and you need to start adjusting your expectations and finding out what is really most important to you. So when it comes to expectation management, it really helps to imagine the most outrageously unexpected, to function in disaster so you can finish in style, and also make some adjustments, controlling the controllable attitude and effort. So that's number one, expectation management. Number two is self-acceptance. And self-acceptance, there was a quote a friend of mine sent me that I love about self-acceptance, and I'll share it with you now. The quote is, if your compassion does not include yourself, then it is incomplete.
Hmm.
Isn't that nice?
It is.
If your compassion does not include yourself, then it is incomplete. And self-acceptance is being accepting of who you are as a person and realizing that you are of great value. And it really helps to have a positivity pal for self-acceptance, but also for COVID. 2 years ago, when COVID was just starting, I guess in March, I texted a good friend of mine who has a good attitude. And I said, Joanne, I don't know what to make of this. Everything's changing. I'm in the speaking business. Nobody's flying anywhere. Events are all being canceled. I'm going to be flexible and adaptable, but this is insane. I said, would you be my positivity pal? And she said, sure, what's that? And I said, well, I'm making it up as we go along, but maybe we can text each other positive quotes every day so we can get through this. And she said, I'd be happy to. The next day, she sent me this positive quote. And I was just so excited that I Googled and sent her a positive quote. And for every day, I don't think we've missed more than 1 or 2 days in almost 2 years. We've sent quotes, to the point that yesterday, the quote she sent me was, there are so many beautiful reasons to be happy today. Have a happy Wednesday. Something as simple as that. Or a meme. Today, she sent, you can't always choose the music life plays, but we can choose how we dance to it. So I sent her a quote today. It said she was having trouble with a stubborn person. You know any stubborn people?
I think everybody in the audience does.
So she was having a difficult time with a stubborn person. I'll leave it at that. And I said, oh, well, here's a quote for you today. Those who say it cannot be done should stop interrupting the person who's doing it. So keep doing it. And she said, I will. And we sent each other little memes and videos and fun things. But when I wake up, if I wake up at like 5 or 6 in the morning, I quickly go to my phone and I see if she's there. And if she's not, I'm like, oh, good, I can send it first. And then I send her one. And you can just Google and you'll get tons of them. But I highly recommend, since we're such a community here at WAHHI, that maybe, if you're in the watch party, you can turn to someone and say, I want you to be my positivity pal. Or when you're at an interest group, you can say, let's find up a positivity pal, because it makes a difference in helping to have that self-acceptance and feeling good about yourself. Because like you said, Janet, it's those relationships that cause the joy. And then finally, the third. So the first is expectation management. The second is self-acceptance. And the third is being flexible and adaptable, like my friend, Bob. This is Bob. He's flexible and adaptable. And when I speak in person, I give one out to everybody. I've got 60,000 Bobs in a warehouse because he was discontinued, and everybody needed a Bob. So I got to get rid of them. So you can email at my website, joybaldridge.com, if you want a free Bob. I'll be sure. We have a Bob delivery service, and it's great. I'll get to meet a lot of you. I know at the watch party, they're all like, woo, we got a Bob. I gave them out of the pickleball court today. So watch how resilient Bob is. He's pulled and stretched to the max, and watch how fast he bounces back. Boom, like that. I mean, it's like seconds. His name is Bob, but he spells it backwards. It's kind of a joke. And it's because he's flexible. His last name is palindrome, which is a word you spell forward and backward. So I'll give you one example of the flexible and adaptable in the definition, and then we can move to the next question. The definition is, flexibility means to bend without breaking. Adaptability means to adjust to circumstances. And if you are not flexible and adaptable, you become rigid. And when you're rigid, you break, and relationships break from that rigidity. And so it's vitally important to remember how key it is to be flexible and adaptable. There's a little dance that goes with it. anything that happens in your day, someone cuts you off, or maybe you missed a shot in the pickleball court, or it's raining and you can't play, even worse. You can tell you, it's okay because I'm flexible and adaptable. It doesn't mean the situation is okay, but it does mean that you're okay and you can handle it. And I make light of it, but you know, when my mom had her cancer diagnosis, and we both embraced this AFA, always flexible and adaptable philosophy, instead of like falling apart, we just turned to each other and said, okay, we're flexible and adaptable. What do we do next? Who do we need to see? What's the step-by-step process? And so it really helps you to get your mind in the right place so that you can make decisions faster, to handle the problem sooner. Flexibility and adaptability makes you a solution seeker and a problem solver. And one last example, a very smart guy working with me, a colleague, Will Hart. I wrote about him in the book. And Will Hart said, Joy, we have to walk the talk on this. We have to always be flexible and adaptable, no matter what happens in the office. We're getting tight on a deadline. If we run out of materials, if the computer crashes, I don't care what happens. We have to be AFA all the way, always flexible and adaptable. And I said, okay. And it was hard because it's hard to always do anything, but we did it. And we'd always say, it's okay. We're flexible and adaptable like Bob. So on a Saturday, I was supposed to meet him, and he was a young guy and he had lots of big social life, and I couldn't meet him. I last minute could not meet him. He'd canceled plans for me. I felt horrible. You know how that is. You feel terrible. And so I texted this long text saying, I'm so sorry, I can't make it. It's an emergency. I really promise I'll make it up to you. Do you know what he replied? 3 letters, AFA. Think about how you would feel if you were on the receiving end of that. It just said, hey, I'm flexible and adaptable. Nothing's going to bother me. I'm bought in. I'm going to make this work. So AFA all the way is always flexible and adaptable, and it is possible, but you have to say it to yourself. Like my friend who's a teacher with special ed kids, one of the kids practically pushed her down a flight of stairs, and she was horrified by it because of his emotional challenges. But she said to herself, she told me later, she said, Joy, I just kept saying, I'm flexible and adaptable. I'm flexible and adaptable. I'm not going to overreact. And then she taught this child how to be flexible and adaptable. And that's the beauty of these golden nuggets. They become a culture. So you can tell each other, we need a 4-4-6, or you can say flexible and adaptable, AFA, I'm good. So I could just see it on the pickleball court instead of saying, sorry, I missed the shot. No, AFA, it's okay.
You know, one of the reasons I love that chapter so much, and there's many nuggets in your book. We know there's many nuggets, but I love that chapter is because I related to it in so many ways. And I have a friend in Portland, Oregon, who I guess has been my positivity coach, because I've talked to her regularly. She's single and alone, you know, and really quarantined in her house because, you know, Oregon's been hit bad by COVID. And one of the things that I realized every time I talk to Lucy is it's not that she gives me positivity quotes, but she affirms me. You know, she says to me, you're working so hard, you're doing so much. I mean, I feel good about myself when I get off the phone with Lucy. And you know, I've realized that that's really what friends do for each other. We went to dinner with friends last night, and you know, I said to Marisa, my friend, you look beautiful. And she said, you look beautiful. And I did not look beautiful, but even hearing that was affirming. And
yes.
So, you know, I think a lot of people in the audience can relate to all of those 3 messages in terms of thinking about how they're using it in their life and how they might use it more. Another thing that you talk about in your book that I want you to talk about is the houses concept. The houses of being mad, sad, glad, and angry. Talk about that.
Oh, I'd be happy to. Well, there are 4 core human emotions. I studied psychology, and the 4 core human emotions are easy to remember because 3 of them rhyme. So you've got mad, glad, sad, and scared. And I like to call them houses. So if you call them houses, it's the house of mad, the house of glad, the house of sad, and the house of scared. The question to ask yourself is, which house do you live in most? And is it time to move? And when I ask that question with audiences all over the world, I hear this gasp like, oh, because the majority of the audiences are living in a bad house. They're living, and you can tell because when you ask yourself the question, you get the real answer. And if you don't ask the question, you don't really get deep into your soul as to how you are. And so I noticed that in the recession of 2008, I said, oh my gosh, I'm living in the scared house, even though I was raised by these optimistic parents in the house of glad. And I thought, how is this happening? And I was spending a little too much money on like shoes and things. Have you ever had an out of money experience? It happens. And I thought, oh no. And I thought, what can I do? Well, you have to realize that you have the capacity to move. So I decided once I discovered which house I was living in, I was going to move from the house of scared back to the house of glad. And the way you do that, of course, is with the 446. You do it with the Positivity Pals. And soon we're going to be talking about the rent concept. And that's another way to move to the house of glad. But you must know, it takes as much work to live in the house of glad as it does to live in the house of mad, sad, and scared. And we visit these houses all day. So you'll probably experience being mad and glad and sad and scared in your day. My point is, where is your primary residence? Where are you going to go home to, your real home? Where do you dwell? Where do your thoughts dwell so that you can have a positive, more happy existence? And I highly recommend the House of Glad because it takes work, but it's just a really nice place to live.
Yes. And Joy, a lot of times people will say, what do you want your epitaph to be? What really, we're just really like, what's your motto? And my life motto is live with gratitude.
Oh,
I think that's the most important thing, is to be grateful for what you have. And that puts you in the house of glad. When you think about what you have to be grateful for, it puts you in the house. You can't stay in the house of angry or mad, because we all have things to be grateful for, whether it's our health or our children or and that gets you out of those instances where you're upset because you haven't managed your expectations. So you mentioned the rent concept. I love that too. And I want to connect this, Joy. Our February lunch is on women's health and resilience in women's health. And we have a speaker by the name of Dr. Joy Ringer. It's Dr. Rochelle Ringer. And she's a local physician who specializes specifically in breast health, but she's going to be talking generally about women's health. And you have gems in your book about around the concept of rent. So talk about rent.
Yes. Well, it's not that easy to live in the house of glad. You can make the decision, you can decide to move, but then you could be haunted by the fears that you may have, or the anger that may fester up, or the sadness that may come based on different circumstances. I remember my father said that when you decide that you want to live in the house of glad, that it comes with a warning. And I said, what's the warning? And he said, well, if you're happy like all the time and you're like, woohoo, people, they can't take it. They just want to like slap you. And he said,
enough already.
Enough already. And it can be inappropriate. People will think you're drunk or over medicated. People will think that you're being inappropriately happy at a time that it's not supposed to be. So he said, you have to manage your house of glad and be appropriate with the different degrees of happiness based on the situation. And so one way to live in the house of glad in an appropriate way, to live in any house, you have to pay your rent every day. So we made a metaphor out of the houses. Pay your rent every day to live in the house of glad. RENT is an acronym. It stands for rest, exercise, nutrition, and thoughts. So you pay your rent every day. You got to focus on rest, exercise, nutrition, and thoughts. So I thought I'd give you a golden nugget on each of these, if that works. Yeah.
That sounds good.
So rest. I am in a bad house if I'm not rested. I don't know about you. Do you get like cranky when you're not rested, Jen?
Oh, absolutely. I learned a long time ago. I teach a lot. And when I haven't had a good night's sleep, the words don't come to me to teach extemporaneously. I'm searching for words. Yeah. So I've learned I have to get a good night's sleep before I'm going to go do any teaching.
Yes. And so rest is key. And if I'm not rested, think about what house you end up in when you're not rested. When I'm not rested, I go straight to the scared house or the sad house. I don't go to the madhouse much unless I'm on with like a customer service rep for a really long time or something. That gets me mad. I won't say
That
which
bugs all
service
of us.
provider it is, but I start to get, but if I'm rested, I make a joke out of them and tell them how rude their automated attendant was. But so the rest. Part of the way you can rest, we've already discussed, which is the 4-4-6. It's a way to have oxygenate, maybe. I know there's some medical people on this, but to bring oxygen into your body helps you to be more rested, get your cells alive and awake. But a better way, if you can do it, it takes about a minute. And it's worth it. My father was in a sleep study in the 1960s. And in the study, they told him that in his eyes, he has a pigment, and we all have it. And it's called rhodopsin, rhodopsin, rhodopsin. The layman term is visual purple. And this pigment breaks down in bright light, like fluorescent light and sunlight, and it's restored in total darkness. So if you are feeling tired and fatigued, it would be a good idea to find a dark environment to restore and rejuvenate the visual purple. The problem is that we find ourselves in very, very few dark environments. It's very rare that we're going to be in a dark environment. So the assignment is to look where you sleep and notice if you have a moon outside your window, a night light, if you have a cable box or any light source, or fall asleep with the light on, you're going to wake up exhausted because eyelids are thin and light penetrates. So in the study, they had him sleep in total darkness. And after the study, he felt great. He only needed to sleep 3 to 5 hours of a night. He was energized. But the problem was he started teaching at the universities. And this was before the heavenly bed and the thick blinds in the hotels. And he was exhausted again. So he created this concept where if you just cover your eyes, if you close them, light can go through the eyelids because they're thin. But if you cover them, there's a difference. So take a moment now and close your eyes and notice that it's not dark, you just can't see. And I'll do it too. And then cover your eyes with the palms of your hands and notice how amazing that feels. It just feels so good. And this is a purple break. And you can take it throughout the day, but you have to be careful because this body language might make people think you're upset. But if you adopt it as part of the culture, say of your interest group meeting, you can start with a purple break just to get rejuvenated and switch gears from where you just were to focus on the meeting. So my eyes are still closed and covered, and it's so dark, it feels great. Usually you count backwards from 10 to 1 on each exhaled breath, but I'm going to have you cover your eyes, relax and breathe, and count backwards from 5 to 1 for the sake of time. So that's 5, inhale, 4, keep going. Relax. 3. Inhale. 2. Keep going. 1. Now, do not open your eyes. You're in an experiment. And slowly, with the eyes closed, remove your hands from your face and notice it's brighter. And then you can slowly open your eyes. And if you do a backwards count from 20 to 1, you're going to feel so good because it like melts away all the stress from the day. It rejuvenates the visual purple. And look for light sources where you sleep. You can actually sleep with an eye shield. This eye shield happens to say purple break in progress. And it reminds people to take their purple breaks. So in the office, we have this purple break in progress, rejuvenating the visual purple. It's really fun. Oops. Excuse me 1 second. Oh, so purple break in progress. And you can actually, that reminds me, you can set a timer so that you can time how long you want to take your purple break. It could be 60 seconds or a minute. But what saddens me is that some people will never take another purple break again. This will be the only one, even though most people leave this session and they think purple break is one of their favorite golden nuggets. Take a moment, take a breath, relax, and do the backwards count. So for the R in rent, purple breaks and 4-4-6. And I'll give you a golden nugget now on the E in rent. Do you remember what the E in rent stands for?
Exercise.
Yeah, exercise. So you know what? You can just put your hands in the air like you don't care. at the watch party, Rin, you know, I call this exercise. So don't think you have to get sneakers, go to the gym, buy your bracket, do all these things. Just move. And of course, on YouTube, there's so many videos of yoga and Pilates, and you can run and listen to music. My goodness, just keep moving. That's the key to good exercise. But then we've got the N in rent, which is nutrition. So my positivity pal, Joanne Flynn, is also a professional nutritionist. And she said, I said, I want the golden nugget. Just tell me what to eat. I'm a pescatarian, a seafood eating vegetarian who doesn't really like vegetables. So I know it's a confusing mix, but I said, what can I eat that's healthy? And she said, broccoli or kale is really good. Green leafy stuff. I said, great, what's bad? She said, sugar. Sugar's evil. So broccoli's good, sugar is evil. Broccoli's good, sugar is evil. So I decided for Lent a few years ago, I was going to give up sugar. It's so addictive. No cookies, candy, cake. I love them, but I was giving them up for Lent. And so I told my son Wilson when he was a little guy, I said, Wilson, there's something called Lent. You give up something you love. I'm giving up cookies, candy, and cake. I said, what do you really, really love that you're going to give up? And he said, oh, I really, really love church, Mom. I said, you're giving up church for Lent. I give him $5 every time I quote him. I thought that was a keeper. So he's learning about royalties. He's got quite a lot of money now based on that he's 25 when he said it when he was 7. And so when we talk about nutrition, it's really about, of course, making healthy choices. But the rent concept really works for everybody because you can monitor each other and do the rent together. You can share the house of glad and the houses of human emotion. And you can talk about there's 4 houses and you pay your rent to live in the house of glad, and let's be house of gladders. Let's pay our rent. See, I need to work on thoughts, which is the T, and rest. I can go without a little bit on the nutrition and the exercise, even though I do it. So you might want to think that. And the last one is thoughts. Well, according to Dr. Jonas McIlharney, who is an emergency room physician and on the board at Wake Forest, he lives in Raleigh, North Carolina. He also happens to be my stepson. And I said, Jonas, what about this rent concept? Do you buy into it? Does it work for you? He goes, yes, it works for me. I said, why? He said, everybody who comes in the emergency department comes because they've blown the rent. They're not resting, they're not exercising, there's no nutrition, and they're not making good choices on how they're living. And I said, out of the 4, rest, exercise, nutrition, and thoughts, which one is the most important? And without a thought, he said, it's the T, it's thoughts. And I said, why? And this was a quote that I felt was very powerful. He said, because your thoughts drive everything. So in order to pay your rent every day, you need to have the rest, exercise, nutrition, and thoughts. But the thoughts, I mean, our thoughts go all over the place and we get so upset and it can cause so much angst. And if we have at the ready thoughts like Stuart Schwartz, the guru in Sedona, he said this expression, which I love, I even made a button out of it. He says, all is well, all is well, all is perfectly well and unfolding as it should. Another thing with COVID, your thoughts are rampant. Is it ever going to end? So sometimes I have to really consult the experts here. So I take out my magic 8-ball and I shake it up and I ask, is COVID ever going to end? And it says, reply is hazy, try again. Is COVID ever going to end? It says signs are pointing to yes. And now we want to know when. And it says it is not certain. So there's so much uncertainty, but when nothing is certain, anything is possible. When nothing is certain, anything is possible. If you have words in your mind, you can say like, all is well, all is well, all is perfectly well. And you flood it because flooding is essential, according to Emile Coué, French pharmacist and philosopher. And another one my friend Mark gave me years ago when I was feeling very upset about so many things and insecure and uncomfortable. He said, just walk with confidence in the direction of your dreams and act as though it were impossible to fail. Well, I said that 20 times a day, every day, and that really worked too. So at the ready, you have to have your thoughts to lock and load. You can't just let them go random because negative thoughts will definitely come by.
So Joy, I got so much out of your book. I mean, we've only scratched the surface today of all of your great ideas. So I would highly recommend people who are struggling with coping with COVID and really do need to have some things that they can practice in their life to make them feel calmer, to make them feel, you know, live with more gratitude, that they pick it up. But before we end, you didn't tell us which president you met and whether or not you actually got to meet him, because I think you didn't meet him at the White House. So tell us that story.
Yes, well, I didn't meet the president at the White House, and I would ask you to guess in the chat box, but I'm afraid you might say like Truman or somebody.
Which
Hopefully
we will ask people to chat. What president
what
do you think
president
Joy
do
did
you
not
think Joy,
meet? That was
at
her
the age
cold
of-
call.
I was
People,
19.
well,
I
I'll
cold
tell you what.
called
I'll tell you what people say when they chat in. If somebody said Obama, so that makes you should make you feel better. But you would have been 19 when Obama was in office.
That's the House of Glad friend of mine.
Yeah.
Oh, Bush. Thank you.
Bush.
Nancy
Yeah.
Geller.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the president was, when I first voted too, was President Jimmy Carter. I see Reagan there. And it was in 1977, 78, when I actually got to go to the White House and speak to his White House. And I remember being there and realizing when they said he wasn't there that day, that was a disappointment, but I still felt positive about being able to cold call the White House and getting the business, right? So I kind of thought, oh, this is an interesting story. And when I became a motivational speaker and sales expert, leadership, I started to tell the story. Well, I went to a speaker convention, National Speakers Association, and it was a workshop, and a woman said, I love the story, but it would have been better if you met the president. And I thought, I don't like when people say stuff like that. That's that shoulda, woulda, coulda stuff. So I said, well, I don't think like that. I think that it was just an honor and grateful that I was able to meet the president, to speak at the White House. And she said, yeah, but it'd be better if you met him. And you know what? He's still alive. And I was like, yeah, I know. And he has cancer. And I said, I know. And she said, I challenge you to meet President Jimmy Carter. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm always up for a good challenge. And I thought this could be a positive thing. So I thought, how am I going to meet him? So I started doing research, and I found out that occasionally he might be at his church in Plains, Georgia, teaching Sunday school. So that would be the best bet for trying to meet him. And so, but it's never guaranteed, and they won't promise anything. So I thought, well, if he goes to Plains, Georgia, maybe for the holidays, maybe if I go around Christmas. So I thought I'm going to go the Sunday before Christmas, and all I have to do is drive to JFK from Connecticut, and then I take a flight, which is like 2.5 hours to Atlanta, and then rent a car and drive 4 hours to Plains, and then stay overnight because you have to get up at 4 a.m. to get in line and hope he's there. So you think I did all that, right? So hoping he's there. And then when you get there, luckily he was there. Actually, I was so nervous about not meeting Rosalind because she wasn't in the pew, and I got a good seat, and I had to go to the bathroom. So I ran into the bathroom and I bumped right into her. She was in the ladies' room. So I got to meet Rosalind, and I actually gave them an award, and I'll tell you about that as the final. But so I go up to President Carter. There were like 400 people. They're all wanting to meet him, and the rules were really strict. So you can't talk, you can't look, you can't do it. Picture out of the way. So I said to the lady, excuse me, but I have a very special relationship with President Carter. I cold called his White House. I got in. You know what she said? Honey, you see those 400 people back behind you? They all have a special relationship with President Jimmy Carter. I was like, oh my gosh, she was not very friendly. So I thought flexible and adaptable, like Bob. I actually brought Bob with me. So Bob and I walked over to President Carter. We stood next to him, and I thought, I can't talk to him, I can't look at him, but I can do what my father calls salt the hay. Salt the hay, real quick side. When you salt the hay, you find a way. For instance, you can bring a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. So Dad would say, what can you do? And we'd say, nothing, they're stubborn. And he'd say, you can salt the hay. If you salt the hay, the horse will get thirsty, and then the horse will drink. So you just got to find a way and salt the hay. So I thought, ooh, I can ask him a question and not move my lips. So I said, President Carter, I taught speed reading at your White House. And he turned to me. See, he's allowed to turn and talk. He turned to me and he said, that was you? This was like 40 years later. And I said, yes. And then he said, you know, we also brought in Evelyn Wood. And I said, yes, I read about that. He said, reading is very important to us. And he said, I have to tell you, by speed reading, teaching that to my staff, you have done a great service to our country. So I thought, oh my gosh. And I have to tell you that with COVID being so bad, I just wanted to leave you with a quote. And this quote is from a woman who was working for the government of South Carolina. And I had called to find out what to do during COVID. I didn't know anything about the state because I wasn't from here. I waited 2 hours on the phone to get to her. And she was so happy and friendly. And I said, have you been working for the government long? Because in Connecticut, government is not as happy and friendly as it was sometimes. And she said, I just started 3 months ago. And I said, well, what do you really do? And she said, well, I'm really an actress. And I said, oh my gosh, I said, I'm a professional speaker. I said, they shut down audiences and stages and productions. And I said, was it your dream to be an actress? And she said, yes, it's my dream to be an actress. I love acting. I don't want to do anything else. And I said, I'm so sorry this is happening. And she said, it's okay. And I said, why? And I'll always remember her words. She said, because a dream deferred is not a dream denied. A dream deferred is not a dream denied. And I told it to my daughter when she couldn't go to her prom and she couldn't walk in graduation, and my son when he couldn't walk in graduation, and my friend whose daughter couldn't get married. A dream deferred is not a dream denied. And I thought that would be a nice parting quote to leave everybody with, courtesy of the government department of South Carolina.
And Joy, this has just been delightful. And you've offered such practical tips, which was what we promised people. So hopefully the audience feels like they got exactly what we promised. And we thank you so much. And people are going to look forward to meeting you around Hilton Head. And we'll turn it back over to Robin now.
I can't wait. Thank you so much, everybody. Be flexible, adaptable, and keep breathing. Bye.
Thank you, Joy. Thank you, Janet. You know, I feel like I just want to be with a group of women right now and talk and just share what we've learned, all the golden nuggets that Joy just shared with us, the houses of mad, sad, scared, and glad, and the 446. And I love when she said, now, if you take that breath out, now is perfect. And always be flexible and adaptable. Joy, thank you so much. That was absolutely superb. Her book is called Joy in Business, but as Joy said, it's also really about life, joy in living. What a treat. All right, we want to remind you, we do have another author series on February the 10th, and it's Kelly Mustang, and her book is Girls in the Still House. And then we have our luncheon on February 21st, and it is resilience, celebrating resilience in women's health with our Dr. Rochelle Ringer. Ladies, thank you so much for joining us for this special event for the Women's Association of Hilton Head. And again, thank you, Joy and Janet. That was absolutely inspiring, very inspiring, and just a lot of, I actually ordered the book yesterday on Amazon and I can't wait to get it. Thank you all and have a great night and a great weekend. Stay warm, everyone. Bye-bye.